Tanzanian island of Zanzibar. You know, paradise is supposed to feel safe. Warm air, ocean breeze, a place where life slows down just enough for you to feel it. That's where Ashlee Jenae Robinson was in April 2026 in Zanzibar. A birthday trip, a romantic getaway, a life that, on the surface, looked like it was finally aligning. But paradise has a way of hiding things, because just days into that trip, Ashlee was found unconscious in a resort villa, rushed to a hospital, and by the next day, she was gone. Now authorities have suggested one version of events, but her family, they're telling a different story. And somewhere between those two narratives is a truth that hasn't fully surfaced. Welcome in. You've just stepped into the lounge of truth, where the smoke lingers and the stories don't let go. I'm your host, Dr. D, and this is Cigar A Crime. Tonight, we're not just examining a death, we're examining distance, disputes, and the dangerous gap between what we're told and what actually happened. So sit back, because this one asks more questions than it answers. Tonight's cigar is the Davidoff Nicaragua Toro cigar. Now, if you've ever had this one before, you already know it doesn't rush you. The first draw, smooth, clean, almost effortless. It gives you the sense of calm, like everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. And for a moment, you don't question anything. But then, give it time, because somewhere around that second, third, something shifts. The flavor deepens. There's spice now. Strengths start to show up where you didn't expect it. And suddenly, you're not just enjoying it anymore. You're paying attention. And that's exactly why this cigar is sitting with us tonight. Because Ashlee's story, it starts the same way. Beautiful, intentional. A woman from South Jersey, stepping into a life she built for herself. Traveling, celebrating in love, in Zanzibar. On the surface, everything looks right. Everything feels smooth. And then something changes. A dispute. A moment we don't fully understand. A shift in the story that we never saw coming. And now, what should have been a memory has become a mystery. So tonight, this cigar isn't just something we light. It's something we sit with. Because just like this case, the deeper we go, the more complex it becomes. And by the time we reach the end, we're left asking ourselves one thing: when did everything start to change? Before we talk about how Ashlee died, we need to understand where she came from. Because Ashlee Jenae Robinson wasn't just a traveler chasing sunsets on an island halfway across the world. She was a 31-year-old social media influencer, a woman from South Jersey, the kind of place where people know your name, where your family is your foundation, where your life isn't curated, it's lived in real time. Ashlee built a life that stretched beyond that. She stepped into a digital world, travel, lifestyle, visibility. But that doesn't erase where she started. Because back home, there's a father, Harry Robinson, trying to bring his daughter back. Not just emotionally, but physically. From across the world. And when a family has to raise $50,000 just to bring their child home, that tells you something is not sitting right. Let's slow this down, because this is where everything begins to change. On April 5th, 2026, Ashlee Jenae Robinson is in Zanzibar, celebrating her 31st birthday. Not just a trip, a moment, a milestone. And she's not alone. She's there with her boyfriend of about a year, who just 2 days earlier, he proposed to her. So think about that for a second. She's in paradise. She just said yes. She's stepping into what should be the next chapter of her life. Her family says she was excited. She was FaceTiming them, sharing the trip, letting them into her joy in real time. Everything looked right. Now let's move forward to April the 8th. Ashlee makes another call home, but this time the tone is different. She tells her mother that she and her fiancé had an argument. And not just an argument, they were moved into separate rooms. Now that matters because something significant for a couple celebrating an engagement to be separated in a foreign country. We don't know what the argument was about. We don't know how intense it got. But we know this: the relationship dynamic had shifted. Now we move to the next day, April 9th. And this is where the timeline gets uncomfortable. Ashlee's mother receives a call from the fiancé, Joe McCain. He tells her that Ashlee had done something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital. He says she's stable. But then it comes the detail that changes everything. When her mother asks what happened, he tells her it had occurred 11 hours earlier. 11 hours? So now we have to ask, what happened during those 11 hours? Who knew? What was done? And why was the family just now being told? Because in any case, time matters, and gaps in time. They don't just sit quietly, they demand an explanation. Now, hours after that call, the family receives another notification, not from him, but from the hotel. And this time, the message is final. Ashlee is dead. So let's sit with that timeline: a birthday, an engagement, a celebration, then an argument, separation, a delayed call, 11 hours unaccounted for, and a death far from home. And now the question isn't just what happened, it's what happened in the time we can't see. For this investigation, authorities have suggested one possibility: that Ashlee Jenae Robinson may have taken her own life. But here's the problem. That's a suggestion, not a confirmed conclusion. And in cases like this, suggestions can shape narratives long before the full truth has a chance to surface. There was reportedly a dispute before her death, and the only person publicly tied to that moment is her fiancé, Joe McCain, an American businessman and cryptocurrency investor. He's the founder and CEO of a Miami-based crypto investment firm. A man who's not just present, but central to Ashlee's final hours. Now, let me be clear. This is not an accusation, but it is a question. Because in any investigation, we look at three things: proximity, timing, and last known interaction. And in this case, those questions all point in one direction. And as this investigation continues to unfold, there's another development that can't be ignored. Joe McCain, the man who was with Ashlee in those final days, is now reportedly being held by police for questioning in Zanzibar, and they are holding his passport. Not charged, not convicted, but no longer just part of the story, Now he's part of the investigation. And when you place that next to everything we've already discussed, the argument, the separation, the 11-hour gap, and the delayed communication to her family, the questions don't go away. They get louder. Because this isn't just about what happened. It's about what hasn't been fully explained. And then there's the part that doesn't sit quietly. Ashlee's family is raising money to bring her home, fighting through grief, logistics, and unanswered questions. Meanwhile, reports indicate her fiancé, described as financially successful, has not contributed to those efforts. Now listen, because this is where people start forming opinions. Not because they want to, but because something doesn't align. Because when someone you love dies, you don't just step back, you step in. And right now, people are asking, why doesn't this feel like that? And just when it feels like the story couldn't get any more complicated, more details began to surface. According to a hospital medical report, Ashlee Robinson had an unidentified mark around her neck. Now that detail alone raises questions. That report also states that her fiancé, Joe McCann, told authorities that he found Ashlee after she had allegedly hung herself on a door. Ashlee's father says that Joe initially went back to the room with security, and that's how she was found. Now, medically, a second hospital report listed her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia, which is caused by strangulation and suffocation. Those are not casual words. Those are clinical findings that describe a loss of oxygen to the brain due to pressure on the neck or airway. But here's where the tension deepens. Because while one narrative is forming, another is being voiced just as strongly. Ashlee's mother, Yolanda, has been clear. She's never done anything that would ever lead me to believe that she would do something to harm herself like this. She was a happy person. And when you place that next to everything we've already heard, the birthday, the engagement, the FaceTime calls filled with joy, it creates a conflict between what is being reported and what her family believes to be true. The family says they've contacted the local police, the U.S. consulate, and the embassy, but have received very limited additional information. They've also requested surveillance footage from the resort, because footage doesn't speculate, it shows. And as of now, those answers have not been made public. The family is even considering traveling to Zanzibar themselves to search for answers firsthand. And attempts to contact the fiancé, the resort, and the embassy have reportedly been unsuccessful. So now we're left with two realities that is existing at the same time: a reported explanation and a family that does not believe it. And when those two things don't align, that's not closure, that's controversy. In my reflection, this case isn't just about how someone died. It's about what happens when the truth feels just out of reach. Because Ashlee Jenae Robinson didn't leave South Jersey carrying pain that the world could see. She left excited, celebrating her 31st birthday, newly engaged, calling her family on FaceTime, smiling, sharing her joy, letting them into what should have been one of the most happiest moments of her life. There were no public signs of distress, no visible unraveling, no indication, at least from what her family experienced, that she was planning to end her life? So we have to sit with that. Because when someone appears joyful, present, hopeful, and then suddenly we're told a completely different ending, it forces us to ask harder questions, not reckless questions, necessary ones. And then there's another layer here, one we can't ignore. Ashlee, a Black woman from South Jersey in a relationship with a successful white man, Joe McCann, a man with access, resources, and influence. Now let's step outside this case for a moment, because nationally, Black women are significantly less likely to die by suicide compared to white women. And when it comes to interracial relationships, especially those involving power, wealth, and visibility, studies have shown that dynamics can become more complex, more private, and at times more difficult for outsiders to fully understand. Now, let me be clear. This is not about assumptions. This is about awareness, because context matters and patterns matter. And now we come back to Ashlee, a woman who was celebrating, a woman who had just said yes, a woman who called her family to share her happiness, not her pain. And yet within days, we're left with a narrative that doesn't fully connect to the life she was living. So I want you to sit with this, not as a listener, but as someone seeking truth. Ask yourself, what happened in those 11 hours? What led from celebration to separation? What do we actually know versus what we've been told? And I want to ask yourself another question here. Would this explanation be enough if this was your loved one? Because this isn't about Ashlee, this is about how stories are shaped, how narratives are formed, and how easily distance can blur the truth. Ashlee left home to experience life, and now her family is fighting to bring her back. Not just physically, but with clarity, with truth, with answers. And until those answers come, this story, it doesn't end here. If this story stayed with you, that's because it's supposed to. Because somewhere between paradise and reality, something doesn't fully align. And when things don't align, we don't look away. We lean in. So I want you to do more than just listen. I want you to think. I want you to question. I want you to talk about this case, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of awareness. Because right now, Ashlee's story is still unfolding. Her family is still searching. And the truth is still somewhere between what we know and what we've yet to uncover. So share this episode. Keep her name alive. Support her family if you can. And most importantly, don't let unanswered questions fade into silence. This is Dr. D, and you've been in the Lounge of Truth, where we don't just tell stories, we sit with them. Until next time, stay aware, stay questioning, and remember, the truth doesn't disappear, it waits.